Emma, the president has said that before he can get to tax reform, Congress has to move on health care legislation. And to get that through Congress, the president needs support of the Freedom Caucus. That's the group of Republican congressmen who helped drive the conservative agenda up on Capitol Hill. Here with one of the founders of the Freedom Caucus is our chief Washington correspondent, Kevin Cirilli. Kevin?
Thank you, David. We're here with Representative Jim Jordan, the founder of the House Freedom Caucus. All right, everybody wants to know, is there going to be a vote on health care this week?
I think so. I hope so. You know, look, we think we got this bill in a pretty good position. Certainly it's not where we initially wanted. It's not a full repeal, but it's a good piece of legislation, we think, and let's pass it, let's get it to the Senate, and let's keep working on full repeal. You
know, there are some articles on the Bloomberg Crossing the Terminal that are suggesting that essentially there are some more moderates in the Tuesday group who have some concerns about this, and really right now they seem to be the ones who are not on board with this. What can you tell us about some new developments in the past 24 hours?
There's conversations going on. You know how this thing works, and this particular bill has been 8-10 weeks of debate and discussion and talks going. So we'll see how it plays out here the next couple of days, but we think it's going to happen. There is talks maybe of a few more dollars going into what we call this safety net provision, this high-risk pool to deal with the whole pre-existing condition concern. So we'll see if that plays out, but close, and hopefully the votes will be there real shortly.
The White House has been pushing for this. Obviously, everyone in the Republican caucus wants to get this done, but there seems to be these deadlines. Last week we heard Friday, then it was Saturday, then Wednesday, now Thursday. Why are we hearing all of these deadlines, and does that help or hurt the process?
I mean, who knows? I want to get it done right. I want to get it done as soon as possible because I know that Obamacare has not been good for the American people. We've had elections in 2010, 2014, and of course November 8, 2016, where it was a central issue, repealing this law, bringing in a more market, patient-centered, doctor-centered plan versus this Washington-focused approach that exists under Obamacare. So we want to get it done as quickly as we can, but you're right, we don't need to necessarily have an artificial deadline. I do believe, because we're on break next week, I do believe it makes sense to try to get it done this week if at all possible.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the budget and keeping the government funded through September.
Yeah.
A lot of concessions for the Freedom Caucus in this budget. Are you satisfied with what you got?
No, we're going to see almost every Freedom Caucus member vote against this budget deal. You know, don't take my word for it. Take Lindsey Graham, who said that we got our clocks clean in this deal. Look, when you're as conservative. You know, that's the frustrating question, because remember what we did, Kevin. After the election, we did a short-term funding bill, a bill that came due at the end of April. We did that one-week extension last week. But we did a short-term funding deal just because we said, let's wait for the cavalry to get here. When we have the White House, we have the Senate, we have the House, then we'll be able to tackle some of those key issues that we all campaigned on. And now here's the moment, and we continue to send dollars to sanctuary cities, dollars to Planned Parenthood, but we don't have any border security wall dollars in the bill. That makes no sense, and conservatives and folks who supported President Trump and supported us are frustrated. I'm frustrated, and we're like, let's do what we said we would do. I've said this to you before. We make this job way too complicated. Our job is real simple, real basic. Do what you told the voters you were going to do. Do what they sent you here to do.
President Trump tweeted the other day, he said that there might be a government. He said we need to shut down the government in September, or we need a bigger majority in the Senate. Yeah. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, is he calling for a government shutdown?
The way I view it is, just what I said. Let's do what we said. And if Chuck Schumer thinks it's more important to not make, to shut down the government, to not pay our troops, than it is to make sure our southern border, that the border security wall is constructed. If he thinks it's more important to shut down the government than to do that, something that was a central issue in the campaign, then I'll have that debate. We'll take that debate. We don't want to shut down the government, but what we do want to do is follow through on those commitments, those promises, those specific policies the American people elected Republicans to come here and accomplish. So let's focus on that. If it means a shutdown, that's not what we're after. What we're after is accomplishing those things that need to get done.
Let me ask you quickly, in the less than a minute we have left, about an interview that our Margaret Talev and Jennifer Jacobs had with President Trump earlier this week. They asked him about Glass-Steagall, implementing a new 21st century Glass-Steagall. Your constituency, largely the base of the Republican Party. Is that realistic? Is Glass-Steagall, as folks know it on Wall Street, something that is a realistic goal that people want?
I think everything needs to be on the table when we're we're thinking about improving our economy, think about this. The last 8 years, we've been averaging a growth rate of about 1.5% at the best. First presidency since World War II not to at least have 1 year of hitting 3% growth. So we need to get a better growth rate, particularly when you think about this $20 trillion debt we have. Yeah. So it's regulatory reform, it's banking reform, it's tax reform, which is a huge issue. All those things need to happen to create a framework and an environment that's much more conducive to economic growth. That's what we got to focus on. That's why the principles that the president rolled out last week on the tax reform, I think, make so much corporate rate down, all those simpler, flatter, fairer system. That's what we need. So I think all that should be on the table as we're thinking about getting out of this 1% annual growth rate we've been experiencing for the last 8 years.
Congressman Jim Jordan, the founder of the House Freedom Caucus, busy week on Capitol Hill. Thank you for coming in studio. We appreciate it. David, back to you.